Are we rolling?
We are rolling. Go.
Okay, so we were looking at potential conflicts where one of the criteria might potentially conflict with another. And the first one we started off was with value and size. So we were saying that it might be difficult to build and test a complete vertical slice within that small little space of time. Then we had independent and value, or valuable. And the point here was that a little bit same as we were talking about with priorities. At the end of the day, it's the developers who perhaps care about things being independent, whereas the customer is really about value. But I think having said that, the point that was just made about the product owner wanting things to be independent so that they can change the scheduling is a good point we didn't think of. Size and testable. So the view is that testers might say that a story is too small to test, and that can be a problem. We think that that is somewhat addressed if you try to make sure that your stories are these thin vertical slices. Negotiable and testable. How can you test something if it's negotiable? And that took us off onto a long conversation about, okay, how long is a story negotiable for? When do you finally baseline it? And the view seemed to be essentially that the acceptance criteria are fixed during sprint planning. That's kind of the point at which they can't evolve anymore. But once you get into the sprint, there's still room for some detailed discussion about the actual individual test cases that are associated with the story. And I think the other view was that at the end of the day, if a story changes during a sprint, well, if you can accommodate the change, who cares? Just do it. Negotiable in size, in that you have to split stories if they are too complex. And then just a few more, size and independence. So once you've split stories, they may be independent. You have to use stubs to manage the independencies for building and testing, which means that you have to agree the contract between the two stories when you split them apart. It also helps to keep closely related items together in the same sprint or close to it if you can. Size and estimable, so this took us off onto a discussion about when you're asked for an accurate estimate right at the start of a project or a release. The question there was what kind of techniques could you do, and the view was that often you have to fall back on more traditional estimating techniques, so let's recognise that's far from agile and you want to try and avoid that if you can. And then the final one, not exactly an invest criteria, but story level. If we're talking about epics, features, sub-features, the small little stories that go into a sprint. The point about it's not a good idea to break stuff down into detail if you're doing release planning. You want to try and keep some of the stuff at a higher level because you're wasting your time and effort.